So this is where we last left off, right? We entered in Mike Mizuki's timesheets, okay? Again, if you remember, the first one, okay, is a staff meeting. You're not going to bill your own company for paying you for the staff meeting. It's already assumed that they're going to pay you. And the other three, right? Now we had Maria Cruz, uh, Bob Mason, and Anderson Wedding, right? We had three individuals. Maybe they wanted Mike to run or, manage the project, right? Or wanted to complete this job. So again, this is definitely very important for 1099 workers, okay? Because even though we understand that they don't work, they work for the company, but they're not under our payroll, right? We're not responsible to pay them any more than just, giving them a space for them to work and give them a job. But in this case, right, if this is very important, especially when you have those 1099 workers that want to bill the customers. So again, yes, you can also tailor that portion, right? If Mike was a 1099 worker, he can go around and actually bill the customer himself, right? It doesn't have to go through us to bill him. But this is just the example here that yes, you can do this and pass along the bills to them. So in this case, we mark that we are going to be passing it to Anderson Wedding, Maria Cruz, and Bob Mason. Okay. Now, of course, can we be able to print our timesheets? Of course, especially if, let's say, Mike was completing this on his own and he wants to submit it to the HR himself. Yes, you can. All right. Or if he wants to keep a record for his own track record of his own keepings, or just generating his own income or whatever it is that he wants to keep track of, you go to File, you go to Print Forms, and here you have timesheets right here. Okay. So I go ahead and click on timesheets, and what you're going to do is, well, yes, you have to click on the exact week that he did the job for you to pull up the timesheets. Okay, so here you go, February 11. Okay. There you go, there's Mike. So you could select Mike, and you can preview it too. So his timesheet's going to look just like a regular spreadsheet, right? Give you the job titles, give you who he did the job for, what the job entailed, what's his hourly rate, just exactly how we see it on our screen. Okay? So yes, you can create and you can print it out at any given time. Okay? And of course, for any reason, if you need a timesheet for any reason, you can even create a spreadsheet for just an empty timesheet, and you could just fill it in yourself, right? Yes, you can do that as well. All right, so that's that right there, just to ensure that his timesheet went through and so on and so forth, okay? So now let's go ahead and see what it's like to go ahead and process that invoice for time. So again, we're going to go ahead and bill Miss Maria Cruz. Okay, Maria Cruz branch opening. Okay, and now that billable time has window popped up again. And then I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And now this time, right, the time section is filled in, and there are 3 bills, right? One for each day that Mike has done the job for Miss Maria, right? He did the job on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So in this case, all I'm going to do is I'm going to select every single one, and I'm going to go ahead and make sure you click on print the selected items to be on one line, and I'm going to click OK. So then now notice this. It's being charged whatever we charge the customers at. This is what the standard rate was for doing these photo sessions, right? We already marked our price points at $95 per photo session. So that's the same ordeal here, is that, again, you can't have your own numbers unless you are an independent contractor, right? And you make up your own cells and stuff like that, then yes, you can put your own prices here. But in this case, this is the prices that we are billing Maria for Mike completing the job and the task here. Okay, but of course that photo session, right, includes things like equipment, cameras, and things like that, right? That's the cost here. It's not just him, doing the labor work itself, right? Because what we pay Mike is significantly less than what each photo session is. But again, you have to also include the cost of equipment, the cost of, what the location is, right? Is it going to cost us money to book a location? Is it going to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, okay? Does it cost us permits to have to park there, et cetera, et cetera? So $95 is going to be all the costs, including the labor itself, okay? So that's what you could do when you can bill your customers based on the times and the jobs that a particular employee has done. All right? Any questions?
No.
Okay? So there you go. Now, of course, not only can you keep track of your employees, you can even keep track of the owner's time or partner's time, okay? Especially when, even though, like, here's a fun fact you need to know. Because if you're any type of business, right? If you're a sole proprietor, partnership, or one of those smaller type of companies, you cannot work for the company. Straightforward, right? Because you own the company. So that means you can take money out from the company at free will. You don't need to work for the company or justify the reasons why you want to take money out of the company, right? Because you and the company are one. Okay, same thing with partnerships, right? You and the company are one amongst the partnerships. So in this case, right, you don't work for the company. However, for corporations, nobody owns the company, right? Because everybody owns the company. So that means anybody who is usually it's determined by who has the most shares, or if they have a shareholders meeting, they elect an individual to represent the company. So in this case, we do have a owner, okay, for this company, and we need to first put them into the system because they are not an employee, they are not a vendor, and they are not a customer. So what list would they fall under? We have a special list called other names list, okay? And that's right here, other name lists, okay? So this is going to include anybody that's involved into your company that falls under the three categories of a vendor, customer, or employee. If they don't provide your services, if you don't sell a product to them, or if they don't work for your company, then who goes on here? Well, who goes on here is going to be anybody such as the owner, right? Partners, spouses of the owners, right? Because you're not gonna expect your wife to pay for services for you for the company. No, you're gonna do it for them for free, right? So in this case, you would have to create an others name list, and that's what we're gonna do, so we can keep track of the individual's time. Now again, you're gonna fill in the information accordingly to your book. So in this case, this person is going to be, his name is going to be Jamal Williams. Okay. So let's take a look here. Okay. We're gonna create the profile for the partner and owner. So name is Mr. Jamal Williams. Okay. So name, you could put however you like, Jamal Williams. Okay. So again, company is Imagine Photography. Straightforward, right? He owns the company. Okay. Is he a Mr. or Mrs.? Well, in this case, he's going to identify as Mr. Okay. Jamal, last name Williams. Okay. Now, in this case, it's saying, well, what about contact information? If he's the owner of the company, every employee should have and should know how to contact Jamal, right? He's the owner and the boss of the company. So if you don't even have your boss's number, then that's something you definitely need to. You can fill in this information and obtain it that way as well. But in this case, that's all I need. It's just his name in there. Okay. So now I have Jamal Williams. So let's see what Jamal has done for us. So in this case, what they can do is, if for any reason that there is a large project going on, right? Because with Jamal, he is the owner of the company, he doesn't work for the company. Does it make sense? He can do some odd jobs around for the company. Yes, for example, right? I'm going to go ahead and do... the example is that he takes on the retouching services portion of the company. That's completely fine. A boss should be involved with the company, but once again, he is not going to be on the payroll list itself. He's not going to get paid to work. Okay, he works for the company, and in other sense, he owns the company, so he could take money whenever he'd like. Now, in this case, he could also keep track of his own time. For example, right, if there's a project going on, maybe he needs to set up he's going to celebrate a party, right? Or there's a big event going on and he needs to plan it. He can keep track of how long it took for him to be able to create a project. So if he's doing, maybe another section is he's going to have... instead of just taking photos, he can start creating a small company, another department for videos, right? So he needs to have a video editing crew and so on and so forth. So what I'm essentially trying to say is he's creating a project and he wants to keep track of that project. So then he can kind of justify it against how much money it's going to cost him and how much time he invested in creating another division, right? Great. That's a great way that he can go ahead and do that. But another second thing too is if he does do other jobs in the company and he wants to bill the customers, he could also do that as well. Okay. So in this case, I'm going to type in the name, Jamal Williams. Okay. Same time frame. Okay. It's going to be January 11, 2021. Okay, so again, there you go. Now, what is his timesheet going to look like? All right, so Jamal is going to go ahead and put admin work. So in this case, notice his timesheet is a little different. He doesn't have a payroll item and so on and so forth. All he has is the customer job, the service item, and he has notes. So in this case, admin work isn't an actual job. Okay, it's going to be something that he's going to put in as a note. Okay, so he did some admin work. All right. Now, what kind of admin work did he do, or when did he do the admin work? He completed admin work on Monday for 3 hours. Okay. On Tuesday, he did 2 hours. Okay, let's see what it says. I'm in the wrong one. Class. So again, class is going to be overhead because this applies to both parties or both store locations. Okay, so again, Monday, he did 3 hours. Okay, Tuesday he did 2 hours. Wednesday he did, Wednesday he did 8 hours. Thursday he did 9 hours. And then Friday he did 12 hours. Okay. Okay, so then he also did a job for Miss Maria Cruz. So that'll be the second thing here. Then you're going to get that billable again. You can't bill yourself. okay, or bill the company for these types of hours, right? Because it's not a particular person, right? In this case, Maria Cruz is the next person for the branch opening. Again, this was for the services of retouching. Okay, so again, Maria Cruz retouching, did Walnut Creek, did 5 hours on Monday. So again, retouching services. Okay. Walnut Creek. Yes,
I'm just gonna walk out to the bathroom real quick.
that's fine. And then here you go. Maria Cruz retouching Walnut Creek. He did 5 hours on Monday. Okay. He did 6 hours on Tuesday. And you're gonna bill him. Okay? You're gonna bill Miss Maria Cruz. Then last but not least, oh, that's it, right? That's all the hours that he invested for this project or for just in general, okay? And he's gonna bill Miss Maria Cruz for it. So once that timesheet's in there, I'm gonna go ahead and click save and close. All right, and once again, if you look at this, right, the time can also be transferred to an invoice. So once again, I'm gonna go ahead and type in Maria Cruz, okay, right? There are more, okay? I'm gonna click OK. Under time, now there's 2 things, right? For the 2 retouching services, and I'm gonna click OK. So there you go. Now again, these price points are set already in the items list. So in this case, obviously, the owner can take a lot more than $95 an hour, okay? But in this case, yes, if you want to keep track of what jobs that you did, you're able to do that by clicking in and filling in the timesheet for that individual person. Okay? All right, and I'm sending the bill along, and I'm going to go ahead and click Save and Close. Yes. Okay? So, any questions in regards to time?
No questions.
Okay, so again, time is pretty straightforward, especially if you are paying, if you choose to have employees. But we'll talk more in depth about employees in chapter 10 and 11, because that's going to be how to set up payroll, and we're going to be looking at the last section of the QuickBooks, which is going to be looking at what you do with employees. Okay, and that's all going to be tomorrow and Tuesday next week. Okay. But so that's just a brief little overview of what you can do to be able to, enter in time and bill them to your customers. Okay. So again, time reports is going to be the next section in your book. Again, it's relative to what position you are in the company. So again, reports, and I do jobs, time, and mileage. So again, you can look at your jobs. So looking at the type of the type of jobs that you do, right? You complete. You can even do it by person. Okay. So again, you could do jobs by jobs profitability. You could do profit and loss by job, so you can see how, your margins there. You can even do estimates and times by jobs, okay? So again, you can do jobs by name or times by name. So again, you can take a look at all the individuals who worked in the company and that submitted timesheets for you. There you go, time by name. You could do time by items. So you could see how much time you invested in a particular service that you provide, and so on and so forth. So again, these are all going to be relative to whatever position you are in. Now, in this case, this is just looking at jobs, time, and mileage. This isn't looking at employees itself, right? That's a whole different section. And once again, we'll talk about that in chapter 10 and 11. Okay? But in this case, this is just keeping track of the jobs, the times, and the mileage. Now, the last section I want to talk about is going to be mileage, right? What is something that you need to keep track of, especially when we are looking at this type of company, right? This type of company basically has us drive to locations to be able to take our photo shoots. It's not like we can say, hey, everybody come to our studio and we'll take photo shoots here in our studio. No, that it doesn't work that way, right? Especially for a photographer, unless you have like a really big, huge studio with really nice settings in the back, okay? Most cases, especially for wedding photo shoots, they already chose a venue or they already chose a location to take photo sessions in. So in this case, this company does keep track of how many miles you drive, okay? Now, there's only this type of company, right? A lot of companies out there that requires you to go on like doing field tech work. So if you have to drive to certain locations to go to their site to either troubleshoot something, right? So that's what field techs do. They drive out to the location to see what technical issues that they're having. Same ordeal here. You can keep track of those mileage and you can reimburse those individuals for them, or you can tack it on and bill it as part of the cost of the entire service, right? You could say, well, I'm going to charge you for the mileage I had to drive out to from one location to this, because again, right, gas isn't free, right? So that's the same ordeal here, where you can even charge your customers based on mileage. If you're saying, I want a job to be completed at this location, you need to be able to pay for their gas to drive all the way up to your location, okay? And how do we do that? Well, straightforward, okay? We need to first enter in our vehicle, okay? So in this case, we need to create our item first, okay, for keeping track of the mileage. So in this case, right, we already entered in our vehicle, so our vehicle's already there, and we'll talk about depreciation in chapter 14, okay? So first thing I gotta do is I gotta create an item, because I'm gonna charge my customers based on mileage. So I'm gonna create new, and I'm gonna create an other charge, okay? And this is going to be for mileage, okay? Okay, so that means I'm going to be billing my customers based on mileage, okay? Again, your description, right? You could say mileage. I don't know. Okay, you could put whatever you want to put in here. Now, do you have an actual amount that you're going to charge? Is it based on a percentage, and is it taxable? 100% gas is definitely should be taxable. But some cases, right, depending on the law, right, there is a book or there is a law on how much per dollar or how much cents you can reimburse an individual based on how many miles that they drive. So you make sure that you do look into that book. And we'll talk about that when we actually set up our mileage, okay? But in this case, as long as you can create the item itself, okay? And of course, we're going to link this item, okay, as part of assembly. So this part right here. All right. So in this case, it's going to ask you what the cost is and what the income is. In this case, we're just going to leave them blank because again, it depends on what it depends on how much the gas mileage is per individual, okay, per car. So in this case, one thing that we got to do here is we are going to link this to, for expenses, is going to be automobile expense, okay? And we're going to link the income account to reimbursable expense account, okay? Because again, You got to drive there and you got to keep track of how many miles that you drove. And then you have to obviously pay for it, or, you know, have the company card pay for it in the beginning. And then you have to reimburse them by issuing out the bill. So in this case, you don't know how much it's going to cost you, and you don't know how much you're going to be charging. So in this case, that's all I need to have set. Okay, so now I have the mileage item listed here. Okay, so then now, how do I keep track of my mileage? Well, you have one way and one way only to be able to do this, okay? And that is going to be going through the company file. Now, again, you don't have it on your home page, right? You can't enter your mileage through here because it might not be for your company, right? It depends on what the company and whether you do have travel expenses or not. So in this case, I'm going to go to company, and I'm going to enter in mileage. Okay, so enter vehicle mileage. Okay, only one way and one way only. Go to your company, enter vehicle mileage. So then now you need to you need to put all the parameters of what you need to add in here. What car did you use? Okay, how many miles are you going to be using? Okay, so this is where the odometer is going to come into play. So in this case, vehicle. What vehicle did I use? In this case, you drove a 2020 Prius, Toyota Prius. Okay? Now, of course, I don't have it in my books. So what I'm going to do is I am going to quick add this. Oh, it's actually 2024. We're doing it this year. So in this case, I'll do 2021 Prius. Okay? Again, now it says, oh, you don't have this in there. You want to quick add it. Okay? So then when did you use this car? In this case, maybe you did this job on, I'm going to say the 10th of February, okay? And when did you stop using the car? Okay, when did the trip end? Okay, it's going to end the same day. Okay? All right, so now we need to enter in what you recorded the odometer to begin with. So in this case, this is very crucial, so then you can keep track of the mileage that you have here. So in this case, my odometer in the Prius, right, began at, let me see, it began at 75042. And then at the end of the trip, it ended up being, let me see. At the end of the trip, it ended up being 75252, which should have given you a total of 200 miles. Okay, hold on. Uneven. Okay, do this again. So again, your start was 75042, and your end was 7525. There you go, 210 miles. Okay. Now this right here, you need to figure out who was this customer job for. Once again, this was for Bob Mason. Okay, and what was the item that he asked you for? In this case, he asked me for a photo shoot. Okay, custom job, Bob Mason, and it's for mileage. So in this case, the item is mileage. Okay, and what your class is, San Jose. Okay, notes, you could say on site photo in San Jose for Bob Mason. Okay. All right, so then once that all looks good, right? Number one thing is, are you going to be billing Mr. Bob Mason? Yes, I am. Okay. Now, before you go ahead and proceed, the next thing you want to do is let's check out what those mileage rates are. Okay. So in this case, right now, it doesn't give me a direct number here because, again, you do need to find these numbers in your the government book. Okay, the IRS is going to have this book for you, so I'm going to change it so then it reflects to me what the year of 2021 rates are. So in this case, I'm going to click on January 1st of 2021, and it's telling me that my standard rate is 0.52, which in this case, it's actually supposed to be 0. So we got to change it to 0.575, okay, for the year of 2021, okay. And then once everything looks good, I'm going to select that this is the one I'm going to be using because what's going to happen is that because it is going to be looking up how much that rate is going to be, and it's going to calculate the amount of mileage that it's going to be charging you at. Okay, so then I'm going to go ahead and click close. Okay, so now that I set that price point, right, it's about 5 cents per gallon. Okay, and you traveled a total 210 miles. Okay, once everything looks good, I'm going to go ahead and save and close. Okay, so that's how we enter in mileage for our particular individual and have them reimburse for the mileage that you drove. Right? Any questions there? Yes.
Oops, my bad. I meant to unmute. No.
Oh, okay. No worries. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. All right. So that's how we keep track of our mileage that way, is by going through the company file and tracking our mileage that way. And then again, because it's going to be a reimbursable income, right, or reimbursable expense in this case, because we had to drive first and then report how much miles that you drove and so on and so forth. So now we're going to go ahead and bill our customer for that. Now, this section is going to be, well, what if I have multiple billable items for a particular individual? Well, here you can go ahead and stack them up and charge your customer accordingly. So I type in Bob Mason. All right, I click OK, and let's take a look. He's got one for time, he's got one for expenses, he's got one for mileage, and he even has an item. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to select all 4 tabs, and we're just going to bill him for this entire thing. So here's we're on time. So this is the time, right, for Mike Mizuki. Okay, he did all the jobs. The expenses tab. Okay, so next one is going to be expenses. Okay, expenses, right? We bought a specialized film for him, and we're going to mark him up 20%. Okay, and then we selected that. Then for mileage, right, maybe Mike had to drive all the way out to San Jose for 210 miles. Now in this case, it doesn't have a rate here. It's supposed to automatically pick that up, but in this case, you have to manually enter it in here. All right, and then of course, we already added that in there. And then last but not least, we bought a particular item for this individual, and right, we bought 15 photographers for Mr. Bob Mason. So in this case, let's just double check that we checked everything. So the timesheets here, we bought something for Mike. We also, for Bob, and then we have the mileage that Mike drove, and we have the photographers, okay? And then, of course, you want to make sure that every single section, you want to place them all in one line. You don't want to display anything, okay? And once everything looks good, I'm going to go ahead and say okay. Now watch this. Now the whole entire form is going to be filled in with all that information. So again, right here we have the mileage, right? We need to enter in that it is 0.575 per mile. Okay, that's the price. Okay, and because he drove 210 miles, that means he's going to be marked $120 for driving. So this is the total cost of the services. And now what I got to do here is now says total reimbursable expenses. You don't need to put that in there, right? You got to change that because that's what's going to be written on the customer's statement. You need to select this, and we're going to go ahead and rename it, and it's going to be named to total services. Okay? Right? We don't want to put that in there. We want to put total services. Okay? All right? And anything that is taxable is taxed. Anything that's not taxable is not taxed. So in this case, gas is taxable. So in this case, he's getting charged $9.96 worth of tax, but all the services got to a grand total of $3,886.11. So once again, thank you for your services. All right. And then you could go ahead and say all services provided for Bob Mason for photo shoot on whatever the date was. In this case, I'm going to put February 10. Okay. So again, all of these were done. All of these expenses were charged. Okay. And again, this markup will not appear because you selected that you're going to print it on one line. So if you were to go ahead and take a look at the overview, you can do a print preview, and you're going to see that all these things are all going to be in a nice organized chart on an invoice, and it's going to sum up all the total services here. So once again, once everything looks good, we can go ahead and save and close. Okay. Any questions in regards to how we can reimburse our expenses, whether it's an item, whether it's time, mileage, or just a regular expense? Any questions in regards to this?
No.
All right. So let's go ahead and go over the review. I went backwards. Let's go ahead and go over the review for chapter 9 questions. So, right, went too far. Okay, so, right, your job is to answer the following questions, or select the best answer for the following questions. Number 1, in QuickBooks, okay, you are allowed to pass through billable expenses to customers by doing what? C, if you use the bill, check, or credit card charges, okay, and you assign the customer or job, so the customer's job section, on the window, and then yes, and then the expense will apply. Okay. Number 2, okay, which account type can be used in the expenses tab for or a purchase transaction to make the expense billable. So remember, there's only 4 that you can do.
All of the above.
All of the above is true because in this case, right, this was on the very first page of chapter 9. Gives you a list of what billable expense accounts you can use, right? You can use a current asset if you want, or another current asset, I believe is the 4th one, right? Cost of goods sold, expense, and other expenses are straightforward, okay? Number 3, if you want to assign expenses to a customer/job, but do not want to pass the bill through, okay, for reimbursement, okay, do the following in the purchase transaction.
B.
B is correct, right? You're going to assign the customer/job, but make sure you uncheck or remove the check mark in the billable window. Okay, good. Okay. Number 4, okay, which of the following tabs appear in the choose billable time and cost window? So remember there's 4 tabs.
All of the above.
All of the above, right? We got items, we got expenses, we got time, and the last one is mileage. Okay. Number 5, okay? In an invoice, you can automatically mark up the pass-through expense using the markup account option, okay? It is available in the choose billable time and cost window on the what tab?
B.
B, it's only available on the expenses tab, okay? All the other tabs do not have it. Time and mileage should automatically be entered in for you. Items, you would have to mark it up yourself through the sales form, and expenses are going to be automatically by setting up the markup little window there. So that's that. Okay. Number 6, okay, to track reimbursable expenses in one expense account, okay, and then the reimbursements in another income account. How would you do that?
C.
Letter C is correct. You are going to do both A and B. So A is going to be select the track reimbursement expenses, okay, as income on option in the time and expenses, okay, company preferences. And then second of all, you're going to associate each reimbursable expense account with the appropriate income account. Yes. Okay, right? That was the first thing I did, was before you start doing your reimbursements, was you need to ensure these are set up. Okay. Number 7, if you select print selected time and cost in one invoice item, which of the following will be true?
Is it D?
Is it D? Is correct, right? All of the above is going to be true. So let's take a look at A. All reimbursements expenses will be printed into one single line in the body of the printed invoice. Yes, that is true, right? It puts it all into one. B says a group called reimbursable group will be created on the invoice. Okay. Again, I showed you print preview before already, so it does do that. And then letter C says reimbursable groups will be including the details of all the expenses that you selected on the invoice. Okay, so in this case, I didn't show you the example when you had a list of all of the reimbursable expenses, but it does give you all the details in regards to what that reimbursable expense group entails. Now mine, I changed the reimbursable group to total services. Okay. Number 8, two-sided items can be used for,
All of the above.
yes, it's going to be used for all of the above, right? To do a reimbursable expense, to do a custom order, or to use for a subcontracted labor. Yes. Okay. And we got to see examples of all 3 examples. Okay. Number 9, okay, for a two-sided non-inventory item, okay, set up without a specific cost or sales price, okay, how would you record the markup in the sales price?
C.
C, right? You would adjust the markup value by putting it in the sales form itself, okay? Right? We already saw an example of that when I marked up Maria Cruz, right? It cost me $1,100, but I marked her up 20%, so I charged her $1,650 instead. Okay? Yes, you would have to manually do it by using quick math. Okay? Number 10, okay? To set a detailed listing of all of the billable expenses and items that you have not passed through to invoices. What report do you have to create?
C.
Number 11, or number 10, sorry. 10 is C, that's right, correct. You're going to be creating a unbilled cost by job report. Okay, because again, if you have a list of a whole bunch of jobs that you haven't submitted over to invoices, it'd be an unbilled cost, all right? And because you assign them by jobs. Okay, good. Number 11, okay? Vehicle mileage tracker allows you to
A.
allows you to track vehicle mileage, obviously. And of course, it allows you to post the mileage to invoices and also run reports to assist with tax preparers. Yes. So in this case, the IRS is going to be the one who's going to allow companies to be able to write this off as part of business expense, okay, by allowing mileage to be reimbursed, okay? And it has to make it by you completing it through the books. It makes it that much easier for tax preparers to help you prepare for tax. Okay, so letter A is correct. Number 12, before you can use the time tracking feature, you must do what?
C.
C, you're going to turn on the time tracking in the time and expense preferences. Good. Okay. Number 13, okay, if you plan to use the timesheets to create paychecks, okay, you should
B.
B is correct, right? It's going to record all of the times for each employee, okay, including non-billable time, okay? And of course, you're going to go ahead, just fill out the timesheet. And what you don't know here is because you'll read it in chapter 10 and 11 is if you set up just entering in time, right? it's going to automatically transfer it into your payroll. So in this case, if you fill out the timesheet, it will automatically fill in the information you need to set up for your payroll. Okay, you don't need to manually transfer it over. You don't need to check anything at all. It will just copy the information over into, so basically similar to purchase orders, right, or estimates, right? It will copy the information over for the next transaction. Okay. So yeah, all you have to do is just enter it into the timesheet, and it will automatically help you create paychecks. Okay. Number 14, timesheets provide the basic information for a job costing, but they do not actually record job costs, okay? To use this timesheet information to record job costing, you have to pass the timesheet through the timesheet information onto a what?
B.
Let's take a look at B. Okay, B says an invoice. Okay, so that's not correct.
It is A.
It should be A, right? You could pass the bill along on the information on a paycheck, a check, a bill, or a credit card. So again, because this is the individual and we're trying to keep track of the job cost, you're not necessarily going to send it along on an invoice, right? This is what's the proof of the transaction, or what's the proof that the person did the job? Well, it's through the paycheck, right? It's not technically through the invoice, because the invoice doesn't say Mike did this job. Okay. And then last question of the day, question 15. After you post timesheets information to a paycheck and invoice, the timesheets will affect what?
D.
D, all of the above. So A is going to be income, B is going to be job costing reports, and C is going to be expenses. So yes, again, timesheets, right? If you make them billable, obviously it's an expense, right, that you're reimbursing for, and you're generating it as income, and it will definitely affect your job costing reports. Okay. All right. Okay, any other questions in regards to chapter 9?